Dan Wilson, Mary Catherine Ham, Brian Neiman, today's newsmakers, and you. The Morning Majority, 630.
WMAL.
7:37 on WMAL. KT McFarland joins us now, Fox News national security analyst. Morning, KT.
Good morning.
So lots to get to. I start off with Afghanistan. I know the New York Times had an interesting piece this week essentially saying it sounded like the president was willing to get out earlier than anticipated. And the Washington Post has a report out this morning that it's an investigation, a congressional investigation that's going to come out, I guess, later today. I guess they have a preview of it that essentially says that our attempts at nation building haven't gone very well and will only enjoy limited success.
Yeah.
So, it gets to the point where what are we going to do in Afghanistan? And is it the right move to get out now?
You don't think about it alone. I've spent time in Afghanistan. I was just there a month ago. I think that, think about it as the little boy with his finger in the dike, the little Dutch boy. As long as his finger is in the dike doesn't break through and flood the country.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but the minute he pulls his finger, he eventually has to pull his finger out.
Right.
Then the country gets flooded. I think that at this point we go to the Pakistanis, who really are the linchpin in all of this, and say, okay, you've been caught red-handed harboring bin Laden. You can deny you, but look, the fact of the matter was he was in a safe house. And you either do one of two things. You either help us with the Taliban by getting the Taliban to renounce al-Qaeda and come to the negotiating table, and we cut a deal so that we leave quickly. And if you won't or can't do that, then you're going to join with us to clean out the Taliban safe havens in Pakistan. And if you can't and won't do that, we're out of here. And then we just take our aid money and go and do the same with Afghanistan. Because at the end of the day, you've already lost.
Mm-hmm.
You're just the little boy with his finger in the dike putting off the inevitable.
KT, you mentioned the Pakistanis, who are so key, many people believe, to what we're trying to accomplish in that part of the world right now. And I know we've been trying to smooth things over after the bin Laden raid, which I don't think we should apologize for one bit.
Oh, my God.
No, but there have been a number of missile strikes in the last few days. They got one guy, and then there were like three more right after it, a short time later. Do we have any intelligence about what was accomplished during that?
No, and I hope we don't get the intelligence right now, because at this point, I think a lot of what you're seeing is from the caches, the intelligence caches that came out of bin Laden's lair. We're getting information that leads us to other al-Qaeda leaders, and that we should have a checklist and be going down the list. And I hope that is what we're doing, and the less said, the better. Certainly the drone strikes of the last 18 months have seriously degraded the Taliban. They've degraded but a particular part of the Taliban, and that's the sort of middle-level management, the guys that go back and forth between Afghanistan and Pakistan.
But it's your sense of it that this is a result of that information we got in the bin Laden raid?
That, plus probably a lot of other stuff we already have.
All right, good.
But, the proponents of the drone raids have been Petraeus and Panetta, so I think it's highly likely those drone raids continue.
As well they should.
No matter what happens with the rest of the war.
Let's get a Libya update here. The NATO chiefs have met to discuss it. Angela Merkel was here yesterday and discussed it with Obama. What came out of that?
Well, Angela Merkel, as you know, and the Germans were not in favor of the Libya operation. They were, like the U.S. military and the U.S. intelligence services, very skeptical that much could be accomplished. And I think, history has shown that they were accurate. But nothing's much happening. We're in a stalemate in Libya. We shouldn't have gone in. We shouldn't have done the way we did. We shouldn't have had the President of the United States put the prestige of the President of the United States on the line by saying things like, Gaddafi's got to go, and then not be able to deliver on it. So I think that the Libya adventure is a disaster on three levels. One, we're not going to get anything other than a stalemate. Gaddafi will go eventually, but not because of us. Number two, the message that it sends about the United States' inability to follow through with what it says it's going to do. And number three, the message it sends to every autocrat and dictator in the Middle East, because he has, what are the examples he sees before him? Mubarak of Egypt, he left voluntarily. And the rug being pulled out from under him by the United States, but he left voluntarily. He's about to be tried and could face the death penalty. On the other hand, you have Assad of Syria and you have Gaddafi of Libya, guys who murder their own people, hang tough, won't step aside, and they seem to be holding on.
And just a quick follow-up. Has Obama, maybe I missed it, has he checked with the Congress yet on this?
No.
For the war powers?
No, and
just want to check on that.
And I have a piece on the Fox News website that it took, only Nixon could go to China, and only a liberal Democrat, anti-war Democrat like Obama could kill the war powers resolution.
But it seemed like there was some action in Libya yesterday, a big raid on the compound during the day.
Right.
So it sounded like there may be some progress.
They're still at it, and they may get really lucky and get Gaddafi. But even if they got really lucky and got Gaddafi, what's next?
Right.
There's all these countries. You get rid of the, revolution's a 3-act play. Act number 1, get rid of the autocrat dictator. Act number 2, the guys who got rid of him try to figure out how to govern. Usually they fail. Mm-hmm. Act number 3, it's whoever is the strong man comes in and runs the place. Mm-hmm. Or the rebels somehow get their act together. But more likely, the autocrat, the next strong man, the ruthless guy who's willing to kill people, takes over again. So what you're seeing in Egypt, you're about to have an election in September where the Muslim Brotherhood Islamist Party is going to win. So what happens when a vacuum is created? It tends not to be the fuzzy-headed liberal, reformers who run things. It tends to be the strong arm, either military or Islamists, who take over.
You just exchange one bad guy for another bad guy.
Usually a worse bad guy, because the first bad guy you at least have figured out how to make peace with. Not to say that these guys shouldn't reform and they shouldn't eventually go, but when you shove them out precipitously, there is a vacuum created, and in that vacuum, something bad happens.
Not that we think he's a good guy, and not that we think that he probably is running the country, but is Mahmoud Ahmadinejad in trouble in Iran? I mean, every time I turn around, there's...
you pray, but I tell you, when I was in the Reagan administration, we talked about, the reformers were going to overthrow the mullahs. I haven't seen it happen yet, and that was 30 years ago.
All right, KT. Good to talk to you as always.
Bye.
KT McFarland, Fox News national security analyst here on WMAL. Check traffic and weather in 1 minute, 7:44 on WMAL.